Hey folks, you're right on time. If you're new here, my name is Galleon, a watch enthusiast like yourself, and I aim to make your next watch purchase the right one for you. Now, with the resurgence of quartz-powered watches among both established brands and micro brands, I thought now would be a pretty good time to discuss a recent addition to my permanent collection. And to be honest, it is a rather obscure reference at that, being the Seiko Credor Signo GCAZ053, which I have in hand today. Now, I've always had a quartz watch in rotation as a pick-up-and-go piece, and the GCAZ, which is powered by the now-defunct 8J high-accuracy quartz movement, fits this bill perfectly. But from my perspective, it's really not just about the movement. Everything about this watch, from its remarkably thin and uniquely sculpted case, down to its vintage-inspired dial and exceptionally well-constructed bracelet, makes this the perfect everyday dress watch. Let's get into it. Credor is one of Seiko's best-kept secrets, often overlooked in favor of Grand Seiko, Orient, or Seiko's mainstream lines. Unlike its sister brands, which cover a wide range of styles, Credor is focused on refined, high-quality dress watches, ranging from accessible luxury to haute horology. If you've never considered Credor before, you're honestly missing out on some seriously underrated value. Many of its designs feature signature elements like Roman numerals, unique case shapes, and for the essential collection, those classic thin sword-style blued hands. I can't help but feel that Credor's design compete directly with Cartier in the Japanese market, particularly among its women's models, which are often adorned with jewels, precious stones, and precious metals. This particular model that I have in hand, the Signo GCAZ053, is an out-of-production version of Credor's entry-level men's quartz dress watches. The current iteration, the GCAZ057, is still available, but I was able to pick this discontinued gem up from a Japanese dealer on Chrono24 for just under $700 Given its original retail price of about $1,600 and its excellent condition, I considered this an absolute steal. The GCAZ053 measures 39mm including the crown, an impressively slim 8.5mm in height, with a 44mm lug-to-lug distance and an 18mm lug width. The case itself is a masterclass in design, built with what seems to be almost a multi-module style construction that looks like each section was individually crafted and then seamlessly integrated. The base section is fully brushed, as you can see, with dramatic downwards sloping towards the lugs that add to its elegant profile. You can also see these cutouts here on both sides of the flanks of the case, which do add a little bit of visual depth, though I found they tend to collect dust over time. Moving over to the top now, as you can see here, the case has an almost tonneau or barrel-like shape, but with a twist. Instead of these lugs ending rather abruptly in a perpendicular shape, these actually curve into something that's akin to fangs, reminiscent of the Zodiac Olympus's manta ray inspired case and the legendary 45KS King Seiko. That polished midsection really adds to that contrast, which you can kind of see here, encasing the movement and the dial with a flat sapphire crystal that sits nearly flush to the top, which you can kind of see here. The included 5-link bracelet is a real highlight, featuring solid land links, a mix of both brushed and polished surfaces, and a comfortable taper from 18mm at the lugs to about 17mm at the Credor branded clasps. Despite lacking micro adjustment, it's exceptionally well finished, articulates quite smoothly, and it really drapes quite beautifully on the wrist as well. I'd say the overall fit and finish rivals watches a good number of times, its original retail price, making this one of the most comfortable pieces I've ever worn. Flipping it over, the snap-on case back features Credor branding, the model number, and movement reference. Impressively, the watch also boasts 100 meters of water resistance. Pretty practical touch that enhances its everyday wearability. Now, onto that intricate dial. The chocolate brown surface has a semi-gloss finish with a subtle houndstooth pattern throughout, adding both depth and texture. The minute track, which are represented by these small printed white dots you can see on the corners, complement the applied rose gold Roman numerals at the cardinal positions, being 3, 6, 9, and 12. A frame date window at the 6 o'clock position blends seamlessly into the layout with a color matched date wheel. A delicate kind of walkway pattern visually connects the indices, creating a cohesive, almost circular track. The sword style hour and minute hands, paired with a precisely ticking needle style seconds hand, completes this sophisticated look. The combination of warm brown tones and the rose gold accents throughout exudes refinement, making this watch an excellent dress piece for both men and women. The dial plays quite beautifully with the light, shifting between a rich chocolate brown and deep black depending on the angle. A mesmerizing effect that certainly does add to its charm. It's also an incredibly versatile color scheme, much like a well-paired set of brown leather shoes. Whether dressed up or down, it works effortlessly with a variety of outfits. Now moving on to the movement, I wasn't particularly focused on the caliber when purchasing this watch. It was just a quartz caliber after all, and Seiko's reputation for reliable workhorse movements really spoke for itself. However, I was pleasantly surprised to learn that the 8J86 inside this watch was a predecessor to Grand Seiko's now renowned 9F quartz movements. This high accuracy quartz caliber boasts an impressive plus or minus 15 seconds per year. Even more interestingly, it does feature an independently adjustable hour hand, which I'll demonstrate now. As you can see here, once you hit the 12 AM mark, it switches over to a new date. And works very much like a traveler's GMT. The only trade-off is that it lacks quick date set functions, which means that you'll need to cycle through 24-hour increments just to adjust the date. But given that the battery lasts for about 3 years, it's not something that you have to worry about, I think. Surprisingly, despite being used in Credor watches for almost 2 decades now, there's very little literature available on the 8J series of quartz movements, and the 8J86 specifically. But its longevity in the lineup speaks volumes about its reliability and performance. So the real question is, would I recommend this watch? Absolutely. I'm also biased though, because this is part of my personal collection after all. That said, if the design, practicality, and quartz accuracy appeal to you, there's really nothing quite like it on the market today. Whether vintage, new vintage, or really contemporary. Credor's design team has created something truly special, and the fact that these can be found at competitive prices really does make this an excellent value proposition. Ultimately, Credor remains one of the most underrated brands in the watch world, quietly producing some really beautifully finished pieces that deserve far more recognition, at least from my perspective. So if you're looking for a high-quality dress watch with rock-solid Seiko-style engineering, don't overlook what this brand has to offer, especially with its vintage and its new vintage catalog. For those of you that would like me to cover more of Credor's offerings, both old and new, do let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to cover more of this hidden gem in future if there is enough interest. Also, if you found this review helpful, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I do try to upload every week. Thanks for sticking around, and as always, keep your wrists clean, straps locked in, and watches wound. Although, I guess that last one doesn't really apply to Quartz watches or this GCAZ. Anyways, ciao.